Something shifts the moment you meet your twin flame. Not gradually, not over time, in a single moment, and you feel it before your brain has any explanation for it. I want to talk about what actually happens when you meet them, not the romanticized version, not the spiritual checklist, the real version, the one that is equal parts beautiful and completely destabilizing. Because if you have experienced this, you already know it does not feel like what anyone prepared you for. The first thing most people notice is physical. Not attraction in the way you have felt it before. Something different. Something that happens in the body before the mind gets involved. A tightening in the chest. A kind of clarity. Like the noise in your head went quiet for the first time in years. Some people describe it as recognition, like meeting someone they already know, someone their nervous system registered before their eyes fully processed what was happening. That is not a metaphor. That is a real physiological response. The second thing that happens is harder to explain. You become hyper-aware of yourself around them, not self-conscious in an anxious way. More like everything you have been carrying gets louder. Old wounds you thought were healed start making noise. Patterns you thought you had outgrown come back to the surface. It is like they walked in and turned a light on in rooms you had kept dark for years. That part is not comfortable. Most people do not expect it. They expect the meeting to feel like arrival, like finally, and it does feel like that, but it also feels like the beginning of something that is going to ask a lot of you. The third thing is the quality of the connection itself. Conversations that go somewhere real immediately. A sense of being understood without having to explain yourself. Silence that does not need to be filled. And an intensity that you cannot downshift no matter how hard you try. You leave the interaction thinking about it for days. You replay what was said. You notice details you would not normally notice. Your brain keeps returning to them like it is trying to solve something. That is not obsession. That is activation. Your system recognized something, and it is not going to let you forget it. The fourth thing that happens is the confusion. Because nothing about this fits neatly into the categories you have used for relationships before. It is not just attraction. It is not just friendship. It is not just chemistry. It is something that sits outside all of those frameworks and refuses to be reduced to any of them. And that gap, the space between what you feel and what you can explain, is where most people start to spiral. They ask themselves if they are imagining it. They look for reasons to make it smaller. They try to convince themselves it is something ordinary, and none of it works, because the experience is not ordinary. Here is what I want you to understand about the meeting itself. It is not the beginning of a love story in the traditional sense. It is the beginning of a process of becoming more honest with yourself than you have ever been, of facing things you have avoided, of growing in ways that require discomfort. The person is the catalyst, but the work is yours. And the meeting is significant not because of what it promises, but because of what it initiates. If you are sitting with that right now, if you have met someone and you cannot explain what happened inside you, I want you to know this. You are not imagining it. You are not being dramatic. Something real is happening, and it deserves your honest attention. Not a label, not a guarantee. Just your honest attention. That is where this journey actually begins.